Good morning, everyone. Good Sunday morning. About 4.5 hours before kickoff in Seattle against the Titans, and I'm doing something I don't think I've ever done before. I don't think I've ever posted a game day morning video like this. Usually, I do pregame on Saturday before the game, and I just kind of let that stand, but we got a little bit of information as Saturday went along, so I decided why not a little bit of a pregame addendum? Because the more information you have, the more of an educated prognostication you can make. So we learned a couple things in the last 24 hours. Thought I'd go ahead and throw together a video. We're, I think, 4.5 hours before kickoff. Most of you guys probably are already aware of this stuff, but thought I'd just give my thoughts on it before kickoff. So, three things, really. Three things. First, and this is not a surprise. I would not have made a video about this. Dwayne Eskridge is out for today's game versus the Titans. Brady Henderson reports on Twitter. I did not expect him to play in this game at all. The interesting thing about this, the fact that he wasn't declared out until Saturday, is a good indicator that he's going to play next week. That the concussion was not as bad as it initially looked. So that's good news. We're likely, I would say, likely to have him in week 3. But we know he's out for this week. The fact that he made it this far without getting declared out is actually a positive indicator for me. But I never thought Eskridge had any chance of playing in the game today. So no significant loss there that I wasn't already expecting. Now, we have two other things to go over that I do actually think are a little interesting and maybe even a little surprising, both because of what the team did yesterday and what the team didn't do yesterday. So, Robert Nkemdiche got elevated from the practice squad, and there are a couple of things to think about that. For one, that's really cool. Robert Nkemdiche is a guy who came into the NFL supposedly a future stud, didn't work out, ended up getting kicked off the Cardinals basically after a season where he was finally starting to show some promise because of a failed physical of some sort, and then he was out of football, and it looked like his career was just over. And then he gets one more chance here, and then he impresses everybody in the preseason and training camp. Training camp, but then he doesn't get to play in the preseason. He's got a window, and that window is tied to Bryan Mone. He's questionable. I've said before that I think he's going to play, and I do think he will play, but this elevation of Robert Nkemdiche to the active roster is kind of a clue that Mone might not be as ready to go as the team would like. Excuse me. They want somebody else. They want another body out there in case Mone can only play maybe 20 snaps, or maybe Mone gets out there and it's just like, no, I can't do it. So Robert Nkemdiche, very good chance he gets at least a handful of snaps to show us something, and that's cool. Now, what does this say about LJ Collier? Because you would kind of figure that the guy who would be the next man up in the event of Mone not being able to play is Nkemdiche. I'm sorry, not Nkemdiche, but Collier. Now, Collier is a little smaller than Nkemdiche. Collier is more of a hybrid end/tackle, whereas Nkemdiche's a little more of a tackle. That might be part of it. But you would think that if we feel like Mone is not fully ready to go, it would be Collier who would be picking up the slack there. We would just make sure that Collier is active and let Collier play whatever snaps Mone can't play. So I don't know what this says about Collier's status with this team, but it seems to be pretty low right now. And as somebody who thought he was going to have at least a half decent season, somebody who thought he was going to push around 18 to 20 QB pressures, I cannot believe how far he's fallen. I know Collier wasn't great last year, but he was playable. So I guess the team sees it another way. So Nkemdiche gets elevated. Mone now slightly more likely to miss some time in this game, I think. And Collier, I don't know what to say. Also, we elevated Nkemdiche, but we did not elevate Phil Haynes despite Damian Lewis being injured. So that tells me that the team is actually really optimistic that Damian Lewis is totally fine and ready to go. So the fact that we didn't elevate Phil Haynes makes me feel better about Damian Lewis, but the fact that we did elevate Nkemdiche makes me feel like we feel really good about Lewis. And also, we did not elevate any receivers that I'm aware of, and I don't think we can do it now. So that tells me that Penny Hart is just ready and raring to go. So mixed news there, but that would be how I translate all this. We'll find out in about 4.5 hours. Final thing I want to go over before we part ways before the kickoff in 4.5 hours. Field Goals tweeted this last night. Rain forecast during game day tomorrow. This tweet was yesterday. If this Seahawks offense can actually function well in the rain for once, then anything is possible. So I talk about this all the time. Other people talk about it all the time. Some people think I'm over-exaggerating it. Some people think that I take it a little too far. Some people think that I'm, maybe having tunnel vision on a couple of strong examples, and maybe the overall actually isn't that bad. But I've said before, I think this offense really doesn't like it when it rains. I think Wilson doesn't really like it when it rains. I think it affects his game negatively, and I think we have receivers on this team, and I think most of the players on this offense do not like it when it rains. And I think it does have a big effect on their game. So I went ahead and looked a little bit. I looked at a more in-depth weather report here, and it's pretty tame, honestly. If you take a look at the weather report for this game, it looks like we're looking at about a 60% chance of rain, so it's not even a guarantee, 60%. So it would not shock anybody if it didn't rain at all. And if it rains, we're looking at about 0.2 inches at most. They predict like 0.17, so not even 1/5 of an inch. Nevertheless, this is another really interesting test for this offense, the Shane Waldron offense, the new Russell Wilson offense, the motivated and hungry Russell Wilson. If it does give us a little bit of rain in this game, if we do end up getting a little bit of rain, then it's another unique opportunity for Wilson to prove that he's at a level higher than even what he was at in previous years when he was competing for MVPs. This is a good opportunity for him to prove that, hey, I'm a guy who can go out there and ball out even in bad weather. And you're not going to get a much better chance to do it than today, because today he's playing a really bad defense with some of their key players injured or out. So if we do get a little bit of rain, which seems statistically likely, then I'm really interested to see what he has to offer for us. I'm really interested to see what the Waldron offense does to compensate. And I'm interested to see if this team shows us something that we in the past have not gotten. I've seen this offense really, really struggle in rain before. So I know there are probably a couple examples of Wilson playing really well in bad weather, but I want to see it today if it comes to that. But it doesn't sound that bad, so I don't think it's going to have a huge effect on the game, but it is something that I'm thinking about going into kickoff. So, post-game video will go up maybe half an hour after the game ends, and then we're going to do a post-game stream during the second half or so of the Sunday night game, and I hope to see all you guys there. Peace out. Go Hawks.